Hello and welcome to the reformerpilates.com podcast. I'm Karl Knights and this is our very first episode, hopefully the first of many. At reformerpilates.com, our mission is simple: to power the future of Reformer Pilates studios. We do this by supplying high-quality reformer beds, but also by building a community through content, education, and connection. So the industry not only grows, but thrives for many years to come. Now, if you've tuned in for footwork tips or lunge variations, let me save you some time. This podcast isn't about technique on the bed, it's about the business behind the bed. We're here for the people running studios, building teams, growing attendance, and navigating all of the highs and lows of creating a sustainable, successful Pilates business. For our first episode, From Zero to Studio, I'm thrilled to welcome Georgia Testa. Georgia is the founder and owner of Studio 281, a growing network of 3 studios offering ride, functional fitness, reformer Pilates, and more. Their strapline, "A place where ordinary people achieve extraordinary things," beautifully reflects the energy and community Georgia has built. 281 is an impressive business today, but Georgia's journey hasn't been without its challenges. From COVID to creating a unique fitness brand, being a mum, and getting to grips with the numbers behind the business. If you're thinking about opening your first studio or scaling the one you already have, this conversation is packed with valuable insights, lessons learned, and inspiration from someone who's walked the walk. Just before we get into it, if you are looking to open your first studio, I recommend you grab our 14-point guide to opening your own independent studio. It's right at the top of our reformerpilates.com homepage, and the link is in our show notes. With that, let's get into it. Georgia, welcome. Delighted to have you on this podcast. I'd love to ask this first question just to get straight into it. What is the one thing you wish you had known before starting your business?
I love this question because I just think that hindsight's beautiful, isn't it? There's so much that we'd love to know and wish that we knew. But for me, it's that if the risk scares you, then it's probably the right move to make.
So look, let's dig into that a little bit more. Talk to me about being scared. Talk to me a little bit about who was Georgia before Studio 281.
Yeah, I think that the story is probably the reason that I can give that answer, to be quite honest. It's a really good place to start. So I'm Georgia, and also I'm very happy to be here. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I can give you lots of insights in what we're up to at the minute. So I founded Studio 281 in 2017. So we're going to be 8 years old in September in this year coming. We started off as a boutique fitness offering in Bedford, which is about 45 minutes outside of London. We were the only business of that kind. So think back to the days where Soul Cycle was in central London. You had your boutique fitness offering where it was all about HIIT workouts, body pump. Les Mills was going crazy. And I was working in a chain gym as a PT, and I just longed for a space where I could relate to exactly what I could consume in London. And everything around where I lived was the big box bodybuilding gyms, they were leisure centres. And I had to almost go to a leisure centre to experience a really good class, basically. So as a background of a dancer, I had a lot of interest in group exercise. So I was working as a PT in a big box gym. I was teaching group exercise in village halls and schools. And I just had this dream and this vision of doing more and giving people a space to enjoy exercise beyond how many reps they could get on a back squat in a gym. So that's what I did. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really have any idea. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a budget sheet or anything like that, which makes my skin crawl now, considering what we're up to now. But, you have to start somewhere, don't you? And yeah, we ran a really successful boutique fitness offering up until COVID. And then COVID happened, we went online, and thank goodness we had invested in our people. We had created and built organically the most supportive community of like-minded people that shared a space and a love for wanting to be part of something. This was beyond fitness. This was new friendships. It was people that wanted to share concerns and considerations of others and learn more about wellness. Now, when I say that now in 2025, no one raises an eyebrow, but back in 2017, 2018, 2019, that was like, what? Like that didn't happen. So we were building something for the future. And now I look back, it was really evident as to why we've survived rather than kind of, it was just a moment in time. But in COVID, we lost thousands. And when I say thousands, I mean thousands, because we still had to pay rent, electric bills. We still had instructors that we were paying to teach online. Thankfully, we had members that were still paying a membership, but it was nowhere near what they were spending or paying when the doors were open. When we then came out of COVID, we were ready to bounce back. We were ready to go again, and we opened the doors. But the experience that people had had in COVID had made what people wanted to consume very different. So we had to change it and we had to shift the needle. So we needed to redefine the way that we delivered things. In 2021, I fell pregnant in a surprised way with my daughter, where I then had her at the end of that year. And I was in a position where I knew we needed to change things. The business was surviving, but we were just covering what we were making. It was just covering bills. We weren't really doing much. And I was actually quite embarrassed of what we were doing at that time. It felt quite old fashioned. We hadn't moved with the times. So we just kind of stuck our heels in and just knew something needed to change, but we didn't really know what. So then fast forward to 2023, we redefined the way that we delivered Studio 281. We introduced Reformer Pilates. We changed the way our gym offering was consumed. And now we deliver functional fitness, high rocks, indoor cycling, and Reformer Pilates. And we have 5x our business. We now have 3 sites with...
That is a really succinct and rich story of your journey across the last 8 years. I'd love to, if you don't mind, go back to the start of that. It sounds to me like you had a really clear vision of what your product wanted to be. From you saying you went to all these different classes and just had a calling in some respects of exactly what it was that you wanted to deliver. But what was the moment that really pushed you to say, right, this is, I want to do this now. I've got to do this now.
Okay, so I think if we start on what you just said, I had a real strong vision. I definitely did. And my vision was a feeling, not a product, because I think at that time I wanted people to feel a certain way. And I wanted people to feel part of something. I wanted people to come and be like, I've never experienced this anywhere else. And it was almost like an uncomparable experience rather than it was just another spin class. And obviously being built off the back of fitness, our reformer journey has been able to be underpinned by so much of that experience. So I think, the what was it that made me go, right, I've got to go for it, was this longing of being that consumer and wanting to experience that. I've always been into the fitness world. I danced my whole life. I got a degree in the dance space. So I wanted to give normal people, everyday people, an opportunity to feel special. And that's where our tagline comes from. Ordinary people achieving extraordinary things. It'd be good if I could say that in one line, wouldn't it? But yeah, that's exactly where it comes from. It comes from the fact that I want people to feel part of something, to feel special, to be able to achieve things that they never thought they could. And for the everyday person to know that their bodies are capable of more. And that's the vision. And that's why I knew I had to do it, because I searched so long and hard for someone to find something that made me go, oh, don't worry about that, Georgia. Someone else is doing it. And the answer was they were.
I love your strapline, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Anybody that's worked with me for the last 25 years, I've used the same strapline. Let's just do ordinary things extraordinarily well. So when I saw that on your website,
and we call the people that consume our product, whether that be in the fitness space or a reformer space, but we call them athletes because they are athletes. They are mums and dads and young professionals and people who are doing something that they didn't think they'd ever be able to do. They're not being paid for that job like the athletes are. They are everyday athletes. So, if you can take that home and you can sit down at your dinner table and talk to your family about what you experienced within your gym world, How amazing is that? So that for me is
Yeah.
the reason why we have to do more, and we are always pushing to redefine how people consume our product.
Thank you. So let's, you talk about it being a feeling, and I get that because I can tell from how you're speaking about it, you're very compelled by the emotion of it, right? And that desire.
Absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit about how you go from that to, right, this is a business with a property and starting a membership and all of the things, because hopefully many people listening to this that are thinking about
Yeah.
starting their own studio, be that Reformer or others, might also have that feeling that you had, right? What is it that pushed you to say, screw it, do it?
Okay, so I think that you have got to be, there's two types of people in the world of business that I've met. You've got your calculated, your business plans, your forecast, your structures, your already like forecasted P&Ls. How many people do I need through the door to make this work? How many people do I need to do that? And that is your safety in numbers. I would say that over the last 3 years, I've learned more about that. But can we just park that for a second? Because that's not where it came from. My mind comes from a gut feeling of self-belief, self, like just deep burning desire of self-belief and passion, that you know that you are going to be so dedicated to this that whatever you face, you're going to overcome it. That one of my biggest things that I say in the world of our business is we don't talk about problems, we just find solutions. So COVID, tell me another like unbelievable, pulled out of nowhere problem. We overcame it. We found a solution. We went online. We built what we could. We went to parks. We PT'd on a one-to-one basis. We did everything we possibly could. So I think you've got to be so true to yourself and ask yourself that question 5 times over. How much do I want this? What am I actually willing to sacrifice to get to that end goal? Because you've got to be good at it, for one. Like, you can't just go to 1 or 2 reformer classes and then think that you're going to open a studio, or like running and then decide that a gym is for you. Yeah, that might be the start of your journey. But for me, I knew I had something that was different to everybody else. I knew that if my team of 10 people were off sick, I could still cover it. I knew that I had the work ethic and the mentality that if I had to work from 6 till 10 every day, that I would do that. So I think that you've got to be cut differently to see that through. And I think that that difference is what sees the people through from year 1 to year 7. Because year 1 and year 2, you can kind of muddle through and think it's all good. And, every business gets a little boom, don't they, when they start? Because it's exciting. It's something new. It's shiny. Consumers love something that's new and shiny. But how do you maintain those people? And how do you maintain your profit lines? And, we didn't make profit for ages. But again, if I didn't have that deep burning desire to know truly that I believed in what we were doing so strongly, we wouldn't have made year 3, 4, 5, let alone year 6, 7, and profitability in the later days. So it truly comes down to you, your passion, your wants, and your burning desire of belief that you have in yourself and your product.
So nobody watching this would ever doubt the passion, the drive that you have, Georgia. That is super, super clear, and clarity on what you want to deliver as well. That's
For
that's
sure.
all the stuff that you had, and I'd imagine you had that because this is very much kind of the start, right? Zero to studio. But
Yeah, of course.
when you reflect now, what is it? What were the gaps that you had? What difference did that make at the time? I'd
Yeah.
love to understand a little bit in terms of what are some of the gaps that you've had to work on? What's the stuff that you didn't know at the start, which you'd love for others to be aware of?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so again, a little bit of background just so that it underpins kind of what I'm saying. But we're self-funded. I worked as a PT for 2 years and I literally saved every single penny I made. And I was a really good and really financially successful PT. And I sat my mum and dad down and I said, this is kind of what we're going to do. My dad's been in the corporate world forever. And, he was kind of like, yeah, I believe in it. Like, I used to fill village halls out with 35, 40 people, paying £5 a time back then. You knew that you were onto something. But what I wish I knew then was the education that I have in the numbers now. You do need to know your numbers, and you don't need to stress the numbers, but do need to sweat them. Like, you should know how many people you need through that door to make it successful. You should need to have some form of relation, even if it's not you. Get somebody to support you with the fact that okay, if we're spending this, but we're only making this, how long can I do that for? We were very lucky that I was able to teach. So we saved a lot of money by having to pay out with instructors. But I think if I had my time again and I had, say, let's just utilize 100 grand, if I had £100,000 worth of investment, I'd be looking at the three biggest weaknesses that I carry and investing in people that could support me in those. So whether it's another instructor to help share the load, whether it's someone in finance, if you're not good at those numbers, or if you're numbers savvy, you need to find your like superstar instructor that's going to drive people in and retain them. Nowadays as well, we find more than ever, people want a people-driven service. So how do you work? Are you constantly on email? Or are you able to pick up the phone and talk to people? Are people able to put the name to somebody? So when they have a problem and they can't cancel their class, can they speak to a human, or are you AI and bot driven, which actually now is frustrating for the consumer because they can't talk to someone. So I think if I could wrap that up, which I think is a helpful kind of bolt of knowledge, invest in what your weaknesses are, because you will always drive your strengths because it's your baby. Whereas then people, their strengths will see through to the gaps.
That's great. So so you were bootstrapped. Everything that you generated was a fund that you had available.
Yeah.
And you started on this journey, and then the reflection, people that do the stuff that you're not invested in day to day, be that accounting, which I think you referenced. You mentioned something else there in terms of another instructor survey we did at the start of the year. There is clearly a challenge in terms of availability of quality instructors, and that's manifesting in terms of affecting people's work-life balance as well, which is something I want to come on to. But you mentioned it there. Reflecting now, would you have liked to have that other kind of rock star instructor? Do you think that's critical for anybody that's starting out? They're going to do their own classes as well.
Of course. I don't think it's critical, but I think it's helpful. So when we opened like 8 years ago, when we were just a gym, we still had a team. Like I still had a team of 5 or 6 of us, but they were less experienced or maybe newer to the game. So the struggle was there because they didn't have a client base. Whereas if you could be kind of a bit of a shiny new package with good branding, great marketing, a good space, you're passionate, but you're willing to support them, then they get an opportunity too. I think shared opportunity makes success, and also shared opportunity is shared risk. So they're taking a risk on you, but you're also taking a risk on them. And also looking after these instructors, if they've just left let's just utilize the leisure world into a boutique space, for example. If they're leaving a leisure world where they maybe get a salary every month and they're coming over to you and you're going to pay them a little bit better per class, but there's not the security of that, respect that and own the fact that you're providing them with that opportunity. So just support each other. I think that the quicker in the health and wellness world we can get out of this like management and instructor kind of mentality and this hierarchy of the manager being driven to serve the instructor and the instructor almost be like bowing to the management. That's not right. Like that's the instructors are your product delivery. So actually you should be on par with each other. So yeah, the rockstar instructors are important, but be shared with them. It's finding them, and they're only going to come to you if they believe that you can bring something to them, especially nowadays. Those top tier instructors are so in demand. Why are they going to pick you?
I think really big topic in terms of work-life balance that came out in our survey. But we hear a lot from studios desperate to start. So they have like that Georgia type feeling of a passion, right? They've got themselves as an instructor and qualified, ready to go, maybe somebody else, but location, a space. Yeah. This is something I'm personally very interested in the UK high street, where things do not look great in many, many towns. Reformer Pilates studios would be a welcome addition, yet we hear frequently of people coming up against challenges with landlords or similar. Again, because this is about enabling people to get started. Would love to know your journey. Your first location was in Bedford, which I've visited, which is an awesome space. How'd you get it? How'd you come by it? And again, just the wisdom of having opened a few. Of course.
Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember that feeling. I remember the feeling of, I just want a space and I just want my own space. And, the implications of finding that. And I think the thing is landlords, especially in the areas that I've been working for, it's a lot of kind of like older generations that maybe they own these commercial properties and they've been in the family for years, or their investment spaces. I think what you've got to do when you're pitching to these spaces is be creative. Think about what that person as a landlord wants. They want income, of course. They also want to know that your business is viable. So have you done your due diligence and your research to know that you haven't got a competitor across the road? If you have, that's fine. But do your research and showcase to them that actually that studio across the road is making X amount of money. The same way as in terms of, if you haven't got a studio across the road, find a like town that you can then say and pitch, like, look, this studio here is doing XYZ, 1, 2, 3. They're seeing this many people, and be ballsy with your proposal. A lot of landlords want long-term leases for the security of that. But what you want as well is you want a long-term lease, but with something that can serve you. So what we do is we always look to sort of like the 5 to 10 year lease line, and then we'll look for like a break and a rent review so that it works for you too. You know, they need you just as much as you need them. But if you go in going, oh, please, I'm really desperate, they've probably got another 5 people that are saying the same kind of conversations as you have. But on the flip of that, they also potentially may not. So if you're going in and just going, okay, yes, what bargaining could you have done? We actually looked at a location yesterday that is a listed building, and it's been empty for 4.5 years. And the agent actually said to me, you should go in here and be ballsy, be brave, and go in silly, because I know that they are desperate. So I think that we get this instant reaction, don't we, when we're new to something, that oh my goodness, I need it, I need them. They need you. Have that self-belief that you bring something to them, and be ballsy. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They can say no, or they can come back with a counter offer. So there is space out there. I think also just make sure you're clued up in understanding and knowing what your customer wants. Parking is huge in the areas that we look at, because people want to be able to park and get there. They don't want to pay for parking on top of their class. That becomes expensive then. So look at what your consumer wants, and then look at what can work for you, like that. I mean, that part is huge. You've got to be willing to invest in a building as well. Unfortunately, that's just what comes with it. With our Amptill site, which is our latest site, we invested over 60,000 just to be open, but we get wow comments every single day. So you have to remember, what do you want your customer to do? Do you just want them to go into a class, budget, look, do the class and go, or do you want them to have more than that? And we always say, which I hope I've made quite clear so far, that our product is an experience. So it should smell nice, it looks nice, it's Instagrammable, it's got a reflective feeling throughout all of the sites that we go to. Your beds, they're so important, aren't they? How they look, how they feel. That's what people want. So don't scrimp on the stuff that you could scrimp on, because there's so many cheap options in that sort of stuff. But really think about the whole thing. Your location could not be more key.
Great advice, George. And I think the one thing I'm really taking from that as well is that long-term view, right? Anything from any capital investment looks weighty, and the natural course of things is we tend to think in 1, 2, 3 years, because that's just how, as humans, I think. But that 5, 10 year horizon, if you're really trying to build something that you're invested in.
And you should be thinking like that. I always I get quite passionate about this product and this kind of process of the conversation, because why are you going into this as a quick win? It's not a quick win. Business looks quick, but it's not. So if you're sitting there and thinking, I want to open a reformer Pilates studio because everybody else is, go and think again, because you are going to have early mornings, late nights, messages at 10 p.m. You're going to spend hours in your studios. So if you don't want to spend hours in your studio and you don't want to invest 30, 40, 50 grand, why are you asking someone to pay for that? So that's the bit I think I get really sticky with, because actually, if you can't ignore these early stages in your growth and in your opening, because they are what are painting the pavement to your future.
Yeah. And any investment should be long-term, right? The very nature of it. I mean, we live in a world of meme coins and crypto, and everybody wants to get rich quick. But the reality is that if you're truly investing and building something of value, then the realistic horizon of that is going to be kind of 5 or 10 years. So I think that's
100%.
that's great.
And also, if it's beyond one location, you have to consistently consider that. Like, we're self-funded. We have funded every single site ourselves. And that looks different because, one studio makes money. The first time it's got a little bit of money, it goes into the next one, it goes into the next one. So, I haven't seen anything yet out of our product, but we have 3 studios. So it's that whole thing of, what do you want? Do you want one and just to be good and to be good? That's fine. Don't compare your 1 to someone's 9. Everyone's journey looks different, but I promise you, to make it good, it probably started the same.
Look, you touched on something there about running a studio with the late night calls, the early morning classes, and you shared yourself how your journey across the last 7-8 years, the arrival of Hallie, COVID. It's not easy, right? And I appreciate you not painting the picture of it's just about getting the right Pantones in your studio and everything is gravy. It clearly isn't. But I'd delving into that, if you don't mind, in terms of how do you manage it, and what would you, again, kind of imparting that experience to people that are at the start of this journey? How can they do it?
I think you've got to be willing to decide what you're willing to sacrifice. And if people say to me, like, how do you do it? My answer is always, I don't have a choice. Like, I chose this path, and to be in that 1%, you've got to be willing to work how only 1% are willing to work. And I know how hard that is. I experience burnout on a regular basis. I have little breakdowns. And again, I don't mean this because I'm trying to not sell the dream, but the dream isn't sellable. It might look fancy from the Instagram world that we see, but that's not the case. I still teach 17 sessions a week on my timetable. I manage my team. I've got fantastic management within my team. I separated from my daughter's dad when she was 1, and I moved back home with my parents. And actually, this is quite funny. I've just recently bought myself a property for me and my daughter to live in. We're meant to be moving in this weekend, but actually my week next week looks so crazy that we're moving back. So we're moving in this weekend, and then we're moving back to stay with my mum and dad, because the answer is I can't do it all. So when you talk to me about, like, how do you do it? It is a case of sacrifice, and it's constantly a case of moving those chess pieces to work on what does that look like. My passion and my drive comes from the fact that I want something that nobody can ever take away from me. Nobody can ever say, because of me, you have that. And also, I want to prove to my daughter that in a very male dominant industry, you can do whatever you want to do. If she one day turns around to me and says, Mum, I want to start a construction company, I want to sit next to her and go, let's do it. Let's be the first female, construction company. And yes, the reformer Pilates wellness space is becoming a little bit more feminine than the kind of the fitness space being very masculine driven. However, it's still in the same industry. So, we still, when I meet with the top bosses of different companies, they are still heavily men. So the reason I say that is because I'm a single mom, a female founded business, and I have a team of women that work for me. So naturally, we fall into that place where we are battling with their parents. They are mothers, they have children, they have these jobs where they have to work around that. So I think we've just become chameleons in terms of the fact that we can do it all. And I know that that's the skill that some people go, I don't know how you do it. And I don't have the answers to that. I think it all pins back down to the fact of, if I sit in my car of a morning driving to work, and I know that I've got 30 emails, 20 WhatsApps, 3 customers to get back to, and 6 classes to teach, you just have to take a deep breath and go, we will find a way. Some people don't have that within them to find that way, and that's okay. But to get to the place that I've got to, that's what's seen me through. It's that ability to sacrifice everything to have that 1% that I know that I wouldn't have if I was precious about putting my daughter to bed every night and having my 5 a day and getting 8 hours sleep and eating 3 meals. Like, that happens probably once a week.
Is the plan, that destination, is that fixed? Is that changing in terms of your path forward over the next 5 to 10 years? How do you think about that? What time do you have to think about that?
What a question. So I don't know. And I don't actually care, if I'm being honest. I think that a lot of people, I had a conversation with a psychotherapist this week actually, and she said, how come in the wellness space, everyone's goal now is to slow down? And I love it. Like, I love the hustle. I love the journey. I love the chaos. Does it get to the stage once a month where I have a breakdown? Yeah, it does. And when I say a breakdown, I don't want us to glamorize the hustle culture or that, but that's where we go to get what some people are never going to be able to get. So if you ask me where do I want to be in 5 years, I want to be where I am right now, just better. I don't see this journey as a route out of anything. I absolutely love what we do. And I hope that we're in it for a very long time. I just hope that it gets easier because we become better at the product. And every time we open a studio, it becomes less stressful because we know what we did from last time. And the team get better, our processes get better, our structure gets better. We become clearer on the numbers. We know how to market it. So it's an educational journey to get closer to the end goal. But if you ask me the end goal, that question scares me because I don't know what that is, because I couldn't think of my life and me as a person without this now. And that's part of my personality. I've sacrificed so much to have what we have. And also I think it always runs back to the fact that I remember how it felt to feel like you're pushing the heaviest rock up a hill to start. So now I feel like I'm on that moment where it's flattening. I can't get off. Like, I can't think about this not being where we're at because I remember how difficult it was back at the beginning. And I'm so grateful for that because I see the journey and I see that to get to where we are right now, which is just touching the place where I know we're going to be, I have to also feel this difficulty because I do truly believe that from a self-belief and a self-awareness lesson as such is growth is painful. And to have the things that what growth feels like, it's lessons and learning along the way. So yeah, I mean, if you want to know what the goal is to get to a place where we have more than 5 studios, they're all running successfully. We potentially take investment or we get somebody bigger than us to take a percentage of our business so that we can be bigger. But yeah, I want to be in this space for as long as I possibly can be because I think it's really magical. And I think at the moment we are just touching on the very, very start of a big boom in our industry.
Thank you, Georgia. I think that's a really good place to come to the just the last question I have, which is a little bit more to the side. I'd love to know just for you in the last week, what's something that's given you unbridled joy?
Oh, what a question. So my daughter is 3.5. I mean, she gives me unbridled joy daily, but this one sticks really true. So I've just recently enrolled her into gymnastics. As a child growing up, I was that kid that had swimming on a Monday, gymnastics on a Tuesday, dance on a Wednesday. I did it all. And for anyone that was at the panel talk, obviously I played golf really well as well. So there's lots of stuff that I did in my youth, and I want to give her those opportunities. So recently I've just enrolled her into gymnastics and she was doing her first forwards roll, and I've got it on video. It's the best thing ever. But she does this forwards roll and she does the forward roll, and then she turns around and her face was just beaming with joy that she'd done it, she'd achieved it. And yeah, that for me this week has just been amazing because what a simple thing. If I said to you in your office, like, how much joy does a forwards roll bring, you'd laugh, wouldn't you? But for her little face to see that first little bit of gymnastic skill that she'd gained, she was just full of it. So yeah, that definitely was a very special moment.
That makes 100% sense and is a beautiful moment. I'm glad you were there for it and able to capture it. That's lovely. Too. Georgia, thank you so much for giving us your time and being very open and honest about all of the ups and the downs. Having spent a little bit of time at your studio and spend a little bit of time with you, it's clear that your drive, ambition and passion, comes through in everything you do. And excited to see what's next for Studio 281. And thanks again for this morning. And I hope it's useful for everybody that's thinking about taking a step. All right.
Me too. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Georgia. Bye for now.